This is a tutorial video for the next installment of the weather controller for Expanse. This is version 1.5.4 and I've made quite a few changes throughout the whole asset, so I shall go through them but in shorter videos rather than one long one where you lose track of where you are basically. So I'm going to start off with the preset system. What we have on the weather controller, we have this section here, so we can use the cloud volume with the cloud volume interpolator, which is the interpolator that Brad brought out in, I think, version 1.5 somewhere, and I've integrated that into the weather controller. So you can either go with the legacy, so if you unclick this it will still use the old presets. So if I, for instance, go to the cloudy preset and I enable that in the editor, you can see the clouds here and I can adjust the cover, etc. in these settings here, and that's for all of these presets. Now if I would enable the cloud interpolator, now it's using the interpolator that Brad implemented. So basically what I've done is I've made my own presets, and this is the cloud preset, which is in the preset folder, and when you open that up and you go to the render settings, most of these settings have been populated, at least the important ones that you would need. So for instance, if I would change the coverage intensity here, this will automatically update the chosen preset here. So whatever changes you make here will cascade into this preset and will be persistent there. So this change I made here, when you start running the game, that will be the setting which is stored into the cloudy preset. Again, that counts for all of these presets in here. So yeah, it makes a lot more sense doing it this way. It's just a lot easier. You can see all the, like I said, most of the settings are populated. All these settings here, some of them when you try to tweak them won't do anything because they are related with the 2D texture cloud planes or with the procedural cloud plane. But you'll soon get used to that, so that's not an issue there. So if we go back to the weather controller, so the other option we have is the 2D cloud plane. So in this way, if we go to cloudy, so we've got a cloud plane here. Again, the settings that can be brought over have been brought over here. For instance, ambient. But yeah, basically the settings which are relevant to the procedural cloud plane have been brought over. Again, that counts for all of these, and all of these have been pre-populated with their own preset. And if I go back and I take this off, so we're using the basic lerping which I brought out previously, so which I call now the sort of legacy setup. Then we can see here that we've got the procedural cloud. We can adjust all these settings here, and if we, for instance, want to change the preset, we could pick a preset from here, for instance this, and if I now sync the preset settings, these settings are now applied here and you can adjust them here. So there's a bit of a convenience function, but again that seems to be working quite well as well. So and then as the last one, we've got the texture cloud plane. And in here, same thing, we've got the cloud plane, we've got the settings here this time. And those are purely related to the preset textures. And again, I've got the convenience function here. If you pick something else, you sync the preset settings, they go over here and you can adjust them here as well. We can also use the texture preset system. And again, you get a similar setup. Basically, everything is now more or less working exactly, all the preset systems are working exactly the same as each other. Again, the only things exposed here are things specific to the texture cloud plane. So that's a brief rundown of that one. The other thing we have changed, or rather I have changed, sorry, I forgot to tell you, you can use these all at the same time, but obviously it's going to become quite expensive. So let's just stick to the cloud plane at the moment. That's the normal volume cloud system. So what else have we got here? We've got the global wind. So the global wind now affects all the cloud systems. In the past, it was only affecting the legacy one, but I've fixed it, so it's now also doing the procedural cloud plane when you're using the interpolator here, and with the various directions, etc. Integrations, we still got this rain and snow. This is for objects, for meshes in the scene. So I'm not going to touch on this one quite yet. That's the same with the new terrain shader I brought out. This is basically it. I'll do a separate video on that because it's quite involved, that one as well. So the other thing I've changed here, if we go to the heavy rain for instance, is the way the particles are used. So basically we've got two particles here, two particle systems here, which are particle presets. So I've made a scriptable object, which is the particle scriptable objects, and that's what these are. So where was I? Yeah, so we need to go to one of the presets which has a particle system attached. So when you choose this, if you only want to use the rain particle, you can leave the snow particle empty, and vice versa as well. If you want to use snow, you leave rain empty, and then you just press the button. We can add up to 5 particle effects. I've capped this to 5. Maybe in the future I'll open it up again to more than that, but 5, I don't think many people will use more than 5 particle effects per weather preset. So if we double click on that, this is the actual preset, so you can actually adjust it in here, and I've got some presets made here. So some of them are specific to the zone, because basically what happens is when you can set the zone up in such a way that when the player enters the zone, the particle system will adjust itself to the size of the zone rather than stay above the player, which works quite nice, and I thought it would be a nice feature to have. And here above, these are the ones we're looking at when you're just using the particle system with the weather changes as normal. So these are the particle systems which sit above the player. As he moves around, they follow the player. So that's one way of adjusting them. But you can also drop down the effect here, and you can make the changes required. So that's a good addition than the way it was previously, because if you added 2 or 3 particle effects, this would fill up quite badly. And obviously working with scriptable objects is it's a much cleaner and easier way. And I think that brings us nicely onto the weather zones now, which have had quite a big overhaul. So if I now go to the weather zones, and you can see the weather zone here. I'm just going to switch the snow off here. It's a bit ping me. There we go. So this is the weather zone here. I'll just there we go. So I'm just going to position my camera in front here. So we're now sitting right in front of the weather zone. Yeah, so what have we got? We've got the options. So we've got a heavy snow element pick. So when the player enters the weather zone, that's the preset which will come into play. And I can show you. Um, I'll show you quickly how that works. I'll first go through this. You've got the update interval. So if you've got multiple um, weather presets attached to the zone, you can cycle through them at this interval, and this is in minutes. So in 30 seconds it would change to the next preset in line, or you can just leave it at 1 and then it stays like that. Then we've got the zone transition speed. This is the transition speed as the player enters the zone. So now in 2 seconds the zone will change into the chosen weather preset as you enter and exit. If you press use global transition, it uses the global transition speed set here in the main controller. I hope that makes sense. There was a few requests of people when they entered the zone how it exactly worked, and the presets weren't switching off and everything was stacking up. It was a bit of a mess, to be honest. And I hopefully tidied most of those issues up. And here we've got the particle set to zone. So when you click the button set to zone, the actual particle system will adjust itself to the size of the zone and fill that with the chosen particle. But I'll first show you how that works in action. So this is me just sitting in front of the zone. So as I enter, okay, I'm back again. I found a little bug. Actually, it wasn't a bug, but I hadn't filled in my presets in the various presets here when I changed them out. So yeah, that's all sorted now. So yeah, let's go again. So we're sitting in front of the weather zone, and as we enter, you can see the weather changes in the 2 seconds that we chosen into the zone. Obviously, these these are individually tweakable. The presets for the zone. You can imagine basically what I'm doing is I am copying the clone. I'm cloning the actual particle which is picked for the one which sits above the player. Now, obviously, if you would expand that to a weather zone, the sizes of the particle, etc., would be off. Hence, what I do is I clone them. So when you sync the particle settings, it looks at the presets here, picks up whatever particle system is attached, it clones it, so you can actually edit that to your liking. So for instance, if we double click on this, this is the particle which is used for in the zone, which will be different than the particle which is when it sits above the player. Again, I've made some presets here to give you a starting point. I'm not an expert on what people like, and you know you can do whatever you want, make them bigger, smaller, use a different texture for the snowflake. I think it's so personal that it's very difficult to actually come up with a set of presets which is going to please everybody. But yeah, just to come back on that, for instance, if I change the size slightly on the particles, and now if I would play it again, then the particle sizes will be adjusted to that size. What I've uh, what I've also done is I just hung a volume override, a local volume override, which you can do when you enter the zone. You can set it up that you get a different volume override in the zone, and obviously as you leave the zone, everything goes back to normal. So that is basically how that one works. Let's pick, I tell you what, let's add another one and we put in a heavy snow. Oh, we're still on play mode. So I'm gonna put in Well, let's take these out. Let's start afresh. So you can see now they've been taken away. So I go and add, let's add two. So we're going to put in a heavy rain and we're going to put in a heavy snow visual effects graph. So if I press sync, it drags in those, you see on the heavy snow, we've got this particle, and on the heavy rain, we've got this particle effect. They have now been cloned into these sections here. So if I double click on this, so this is for the heavy rain. If I go to here for the heavy rain zone, heavy snow, heavy rain effect zone, and I do the same with heavy snow effects zone. And now if I play, enter the zone. So we start with the heavy rain. And in 30 seconds this will change over to the heavy snow. When you use more than one preset as well, you'll see that you've got another zone preset transition. So these are the interzonal preset transitions. So the transition you just saw between the heavy rain and the heavy snow, that's the speed of those. So you can set these separately yourself as well. Again, tweak the particle effects to your liking. Everybody has got a different idea of different things. This is very much the nuts and bolts are here for you to do whatever you want. So those are basically the main changes in the zone. It works a lot better now. It's a bit cleaner, and yeah, it's an improvement to what it was. So these are the main changes in the way I'm using the particle system. In the meantime, when I was doing all this, I came across numerous bugs, etc., which are hopefully most of them are now fixed. I haven't really changed much here. So what I'll do is I'm going to sign off on this one, and then I'm going to get ready to make a tutorial video regarding the new terrain shader, which will ship with the next weather controller.